All right, guys, much apologies, do a real quick rehash. This is assignment 8. Assignment 8's due date is on 4/16, which is a little bit less, like 9 days away from now. That's next Friday, right? Now, that may seem like it's a lot, but like I mentioned before, if we're up to speed after this Friday, we won't have any additional reading assignment, quizzes to complete after watching the videos. So that time that you usually would spend in engaging those activities, we don't want to appropriately put into the remaining assignments in this course, right? And class time will be focused on you guys working on them, putting you in breakout rooms, making sure that we can get to this task. Assignment 8 and 9, I'm going to give you kind of a precursor. I actually feel like I'm stealing the shine of my colleagues, Dr. Madsen and Joel Keener, who did a brilliant presentation a couple weeks ago that was on having them sharing their artwork. Right now, we're doing presentations. You know, we don't have a printer, and that's what made me stop doing this in the past. In the past, when we got to the point of you guys completing your research, printing out poster board and paper was expensive. People started charging me $200, and it wasn't worth me putting that kind of money on my wallet for sometimes some work that wasn't even put together really well. However, I believe that the Zoom environment can create an environment in which individuals can take turns, be appointed as certain time in a presentation and share the research that they are doing. So I'm going to fine tune that. You'll be putting your work into kind of like a PowerPoint presentation summaries. And we may have an event where we open up to the general public or just the faculty in our department, or just friends and family of each of you that we're doing. We'll sit back and look at it to find out what is the appropriate venue or audience, especially since this will be the first time. All right, now assignment 8, right? Assignment 8 is when you're working on the results and the discussion page. Now I'm going to walk through this, right? Just to sit back and make sure that we do this. If we're up to speed with what we're doing with the method section, I've been looking at them, they look really good. You guys are able to write some stuff. I want to give you guys some feedback on it so that feedback will be in our final product. However, what is assignment 8? And please jump in if you guys have any questions or concerns, because the whole point is comprehensible for each of you. All right, so for assignment number 8, right, you're expected to create a results and a discussion section for your research project. Students are encouraged to review the articles that you read last semester for examples of what they are tasked to create. Now, you know what, I'm going to add on here, not just last semester and this semester. And the reason why I say that is this. Every article, if you guys did assignment 1 correctly, last semester, you were to click on EBSCOhost. You were to make sure that you were searching for documents that were PDF access, which means that you would get them instantly, no interlibrary loan. The other aspect, as I told you in the instructions, I know some of you guys didn't do it, but it was to comb through to make sure that they had a methods section, right? If they have a methods section, then we can use them. If they don't have a methods section, it might be a magazine article, it might be a review, but it's not going to be something that's useful for us. Now, all of those, up to this point, if we've done this, we've done assignment 3 last semester. If you were in the course, that's when you pick the first article, you summarize it. The rubric is the same, it hasn't changed. For assignment 4 of this semester, at the start of the semester, if you submitted it, you summarize that article, which is another article, same topic. And then for assignment 5, we also had another summary on the same general research topic. Each of those 3 articles that you summarize, don't look at your summary, but each of those articles that you summarize, each of them are a research paper and can be an example. So if you're questioning what in the world is a results section, what in the world is a conclusion or discussions, those are perfect examples. If you're up to speed, you've read them 3 times. And I think going back to something that you've already read is the best way to do it. Don't find something new and try to mimic. Go back and build on what you've already known. You guys have already been knee deep into those articles. You've been knee deep into those summaries. Going back and attending to something on a different level that you've already read is a lot easier than trying to sit back and look at something new and comprehend it. So again, that is a very, very important aspect. It will help a lot to make sure that you guys can see what the results section. Now, discussion is a name that we usually use. Sometimes it may be called conclusions or discussion and conclusions. But again, you can look at that diversity, and if you have any questions, I am just a Zoom jump in away, a text away, phone call away, or sending an email if you have any question about what you're doing. All right, now the next thing is saying this. As always, and this is always key, right? Satisfying the rubric requirements in the order listed in the document should guide the creation of this assignment. Yeah, I'll just say that. If you're worried about doing assignment 8, the best thing to do is to get that rubric. I don't know if you guys are printing anymore. It's been difficult. I haven't printed at all, but having that rubric next to you and accessible and going by everything that's listed on there will make it so that your results and discussion section will manifest itself right there in front of you, right? And again, this is what hurts me. I've created those rubrics over, I'll probably say 15 years now, right? Every once in a while, we'll get somebody. I'm gonna use Siani as an example, right? Siani is that kind of slick, you know what kind of student. She'll find something in my rubric that I really think is important, right? But since it's not in the rubric, she didn't do it. Now, this is what I do. This is my style. I'll look at Siani and be like, oh, snap. She didn't do this. It's what I expected, but it's not in the rubric. So as a result of it not being in the rubric, I can't penalize them for it. That's how important it is. But this is what I do. I will open up the document like assignment 8 on my computer. At that very moment, I'll be mad at Siani too. Be like, you ain't never going to hand in the paper like this again. I'll add this new rubric requirement in. And that new rubric requirement won't impact you. Siani and all of you in this class, y'all got away with murder because there was an oversight in the rubric that I really wanted you to do, but it wasn't really implied. I'll add it to that rubric. It won't impact you guys at all. Students will be here, let's say April 7th of 2022. Those are the individuals who will have that in the rubric, and it will be clearly communicated as to their assignment. That's how these rubrics build, and that is how these rubrics make sure that we can create these assignments from what we're doing. So again, I always tell people the only concerns you really should have is if you're reading the rubric and you don't understand what that item is. There might be a typo, it might be unclear. Those are the type of questions that could influence them. But if you follow them and you, I always say vilify me, your results and discussion section will create itself, even if you're not even aware of what you're doing. Yeah, I think that's true. It's true more in terms than what I've seen. All right. Now, this assignment is based on the data that has been assigned to you and posted on D2L. Each student in the class has been assigned a unique set of data that should be consistent with your research items contributed or your article summaries from last semester. Now, I want all of you to go online. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to take you there because I just cleaned up D2L. And the reason why I want to take you there is because I've changed the way D2L is working. And those of you who are behind, those of you who are keeping up, you might go there and be like, Dr. Barnes, I can't see what I'm supposed to do, right? Information that you showed me in the past is no longer here. What am I to do? So I want to make sure that you guys know where the new information is. We are coming in towards the home stretch. So all of that previous information, it really was creating clutter. And I wanted to clean things up, right? So this is the course. I believe you guys can see where I'm at on the screen. Go into content. I'm going to click on syllabus and course prep material. All right, and I'm actually going to make me show this as a student so you guys can see what it looks like from your point of view. Make this a little bit bigger for you. All right, so we go to course prep and syllabus. So the syllabus is here. Then I have a folder that's called new survey stuff, right? Now I told you before, those of you who are behind, those who are thinking they're going to get to their assignment 5 or 4 or 6, whenever the spirit moves them. If you are trying to do some assignments that you have not done before, that information is in the folder that's called old survey stuff. This is all, I'm not going to click on it, but these are all the things that we've done over the weeks when I was helping you guys find out how to write results sections. Remember how we were giving you the graphs, you were talking about the data, and I was teaching you over a 2 or 3 week period about how to sit back and write effective results that are descriptive of the quality and the diversity in your data. We did that for a number of weeks in class. The raw data, the data graphs, the survey, if you still need to go back to that for some item, All these are in the folder for old survey stuff. But again, it's a lot more manageable now that what we're going to focus on is going into the new survey stuff. So let me click on this new survey stuff folder and show you what's in here. I'm going to click over here, which gets rid of all the extra information. I am tired of picking on, I think I pick on WWP a whole lot. So I'm going to pick on the SGTM group. Now, I want you to look at this. This is something you might want to write down, put in your notes, right? Everybody should have, the first thing should be something called like description data. It's not going to be the first thing, but it's in your folder. Descriptive data, right? I just did this little convention to save time. So this is the descriptive data for the SGTM group. I believe that is Summers, Goodman, Tapper, and McNeil. Now, when you open this document, let's see what it's going to do. It's going to take us there. And you're going to see a lot of information. Now, this is need some pencils out, some engagement, right? Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit so we can see what's going on. Yes, we can. This is a descriptive data. I didn't do it in SPSS. I actually did this in Excel. It took a little bit longer, but to give you guys the information that you need. Now, those who are not in the SGTM group, and actually those in the SGTM group that might not be aware of their survey at the moment, right? They might look at this and like, I don't understand what these questions are, right? Now, I remember from looking at this, because I was kind of fascinated by this. It's a question right here. Let's put this on annotation. I am focusing on this right here. The heading that cried, I think I actually created that, but I think it's a question of, it was asking about, please rate the last time you cried and whether you were embarrassed as a result of that crying, right? Now that was on a scale of 1 to 5. Now let's look at what is being included in here. The first thing, the first row right here is talking about the mean. Now you have to use the quantitative statistical reasoning that I keep talking about, right? You have to go back to the survey if you don't remember this is an item from 1 to 5. You have to go back to the survey if you don't remember whether 1 means that you were really embarrassed or 5 means that you were really embarrassed. You got to be sure of those things. The only thing I can know about looking at this data right here is the fact that out of a scale of 1 to 5, whatever 1 means, whatever 5 means, if I got to go back and figure it out, I got to do that. But the mean rating, when I collapsed it across all 50 of the participants, that's what N means. I'm going to put this on the screen. N equals the number of respondents, people who completed the survey, respondents, right? So 50 people were responding on this survey, which you have right here. Now I want you to realize, depending on participants not answering or skipping items, it's not always going to be 50. Right here, when it came down to the first item, some people didn't answer the question. I don't know why. Right here, 1 person didn't answer the question. So you always want to attend to that N just to make sure that, you know, if you have a sample of 52 or 51, you need to know exactly how many people did it. Don't just assume everybody answered the question, right? But again, going back to the mean is 2.26. That means, I'm going to draw this, so I want you guys to sit back and do this as well. That means out of a possible score of, actually it's not 0. The lowest possible score is 1. The highest possible score is 5. Let's sit back and put some little integers here. That's 2, that'd be 3, that'd be 4, and I'll make 5 here just because that's more consistent with my spacing. Right, and this is 5. The only thing I know from what we're talking about right now is that this value is 2.26. It's right around, like, it's a little bit more than a 1/4. The item's about right here. So the mean is right here. Now, I told you before, we got to go back to the survey if you don't remember about, we don't know if 5 means they're more embarrassed or less embarrassed. So we got to dive into these contents. The other issue is about the standard deviation. Now, this is, I'm going to do this, but I want you guys to relax. I don't want you guys to focus on this because this isn't anything I want you guys to talk about, right? But I will show you just for, to expand on this. The standard deviation is 1.352, which is pretty much saying that the mean is right here, but when you look at the data, there's so much variability that the majority of the data fits within 1 point. So 1 point would be kind of here, and then an additional 3.5 would be right here. So the data might be up to about there, and it also could be down to about there. That's creating a 1.352 spread around that mean. Now, I will tell you, if you get into talking about the standard deviation, I'm going to write this on the screen for you. The only thing I want you guys to attend to about standard deviation is to compare their values if interested in doing so, right? With the assumption that larger values mean greater spread, AKA greater uncertainty among the group. I'm not even going to say group, I'm going to say participants. So let me just, we've already went over this, what the standard deviation is, but I want to talk about it in the context of looking at interpreting our data. And that's if we go this route. I'm not saying that we have to. Let me get this out of the way so I can. There we go. On this, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? How do I bring this up front? Actually, I can't. I'll just leave it like this. You guys can see that, right? Standard deviation is to compare their values, if interested in doing so, meaning if you want to do so, with the assumption that larger values mean greater spread. Now, AKA what that is saying is that amongst the 50 people in here, right? This value is 1.352. That's a larger number than 0.887. If you look at this item, if you were comparing items to one another, that means there's greater spread around this mean than there would be if I were to plot this on the same graph. If I were to plot here, the 2.7 would be a little bit higher and the spread would be smaller. That is, got to look about that. These values of mean and standard deviation are an indication of how all 50 people responded. So a large standard deviation does kind of imply that there's greater uncertainty amongst those 50 people, right? Because they weren't sure what they were going to pick. Let's look at when it has a very small level of uncertainty based on what's here. Let's look up here under people. That's a different kind of item, but that standard deviation is 0.49. That's like 0.5. That means that if we were doing this here, the spread would only be half above and half below, right? So if you want to talk about standard deviation, and everybody, I will imagine, will go into their data, talk about these variables differently. Everybody's going to be assigned different variables, right? But if you go into your data and you feel like you want to talk about standard deviation, that's how standard deviation should be interpreted. I don't want people to be like, the standard deviation was 1.352, and okay, what does that mean? No, if you're going to talk about the standard deviation, you need to do so and understand that a greater spread is referring to higher number. You can compare that to a relative smaller number on a different item by saying, look, when they asked about whether you people were embarrassed about when they were crying, there was greater variability amongst those 50 people. Then when we asked them, were they embarrassed about when their dog passed away and they cried, right? So cried alone and cried when their dog passed away, there's greater spread, greater uncertainty about them amongst the group than the other. So that's the effective way of using standard deviation. I want to make sure that we have that because I put it in here and it's information that can be useful for all of us, but we need to make sure that we understand how to use it and interpret it because that's going to be our goal. Our goal is to take these numbers and to now tell a story with these numbers. Anybody have any questions about that? All right, I will move on with this. Okay, now, looking at this data, let's go back to that. N, I think I talked about, standard deviation you guys have. Now, this right here is something new and unique that I created. Here we go. F1, F2, F3, F4, F5. Now, it's capital because I was just doing this quickly, but the F stands for frequency. Please write this down if you guys have it, just so you can understand looking at these a little bit later. Frequency. Now, this will show you, I'm going to go back to the same item that we were talking about before. We're going to go to CRIDE. Now we know what the mean is, we know standard deviation, but we can get some other information out of here. How many people responded with a score of 1 on the item of whether you cried, did you feel embarrassed? This graph is showing us that 22 people responded on a rate of 1. Right now, if we had a graph, you could imagine what that would look like, right? Now, you might ask the question of how many people responded with a rating of 5. Actually, I'll ask this. So you guys put it in chat. How many people for the item of were you embarrassed when you cried? Put this in chat. Try to do it direct so everyone isn't seeing it. But what is the frequency of individuals who responded with a 5 on that item? All right, numbers are coming in. All right, you guys are able to see this. You're able to read this, right? I got 3 comments so far. They're coming in. Yeah, it seems kind of odd. I'm asking for 5, and then it's kind of ironic what the answer is. All right, now I am going to wait, right? I'm going to sit back and wait to get participation from everybody in the class. It's kind of what I'm looking for in terms of making sure that we're here. Now, if you need assistance, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you explain that again? Like what you're asking for again?
All right. Now I'm going to ask somebody else to explain what I'm asking for again. Who is comfortable with what I just asked and can repeat that question? I want to make sure I am being clear.
How many participants rated a 5 as to the amount of times they cried?
Yeah, and the item is like, I think the item is something along the lines of like, you feel embarrassed when you cry. So we're asking for, looking at this data, how many people responded and indicated a score of 5? All right, everything I got so far seems to be a correct answer. I just don't have everything from everyone yet. And if you guys still need more help, please let me know. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have 11 people in the class. We'll sit back and use the phrase, don't be scared. You never know if you're right or you're wrong, and you can't learn, you don't try. All right, excellent, excellent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Still got 7 out of 10 participants.
Can you repeat the question?
All right. No, actually, it's funny. I can repeat it, Alex, but you got the answer, right? What I'm asking for is.
I thought you asked for another one.
Yeah, we're asking for, and I'll do it because I think some people that have an answer might need it, right? We're asking for the item about cried, right? How many people responded out of our 50 and responded with a score of 5 on that survey? Now, I'm going to pull the wool up under this because, again, I'm not going to sit back and waste all day, right, with this. But the answer is, let me get this annotation software just pulled out. The answer is 5 right here. And that's because what I was saying before, F stands for frequency. So F1 is the frequency of people who responded with the value item rated for 1. F2 is for the people that responded for the item of rating it 2. F3 is people who responded in the middle. F4 is people who responded with the 4. F5 is those who responded on the 5, right? I think I got a lot of people responding to this. It's really good. All right. So we know how to get that information out. This is the descriptive data, right? Now that's one part of what we're expecting you guys to do, right? Now, here's the issue. This is the descriptive data for the entire group of SGTM. Now, based off your research interests, everybody is not interested in the same exact items. I'm not going to need you and everybody in this group to talk about every item on this chart. What you need to do is, based off kind of results that I'll give you a little bit later, you need to find out which of these data values you might want to talk about or report, and it will be consistent with your research interests. And I share that to say this. I forget whose items were, this right here, warn peer, warn teacher, and warn your parent. That's one of those items that was going into detail about whether your friends, your parents, and your teachers will be able to find out whether you have, I think it's mental health issues, right? Now there's 4 people in that group. There's probably only 1 or maybe 2 people in that group that really are interested in that question. Other people in that same group might be interested in worried about how much crime they witnessed in their neighborhood. Whether memory, because again, I think that this right here is about cognition. The cognition item is talking about when you're tired, whether or not you feel like tiredness can impact your ability to comprehend, right? So for that individual who's interested in looking at the sleepiness and what that does to you, the item of go to sleep might be their primary concern. They would focus primarily on going to sleep, right here, quality of sleep, as well as, cognition impacts a person's ability to sleep. That might be the subset of the items that that person is looking at. Another member of that group, like I mentioned before, might be more interested in whether family members can find out whether you have mental health. So another person in that group will be looking at these items, right? There will be overlap. You want to have some kind of discussion, and we're going to need you guys to do a little bit more than just sitting still and being confused and lost. Because if you are not sure what items you should be looking at, we need to sit back and find out what you're interested in, what your articles are, and how we can salvage a question relevant to your research from that. I'm not really forcing you. I did create some results in terms of where I think people would want to go. But if you realize that there's something else you want to look at, that's going to be you having to reach out and say, look, Dr. Barnes, I'd rather go this route as opposed to what you gave me. Is that okay? I might run some additional analyses for you, make sure we can see it, get some results, but everybody will have this data. It's not a write down everything on this table. If you're only focusing on sleep and how it impacts your memory and how, your stories about college or something, these might be the only 3 items that you're looking to talk about. I know I'm still going to get a complete table from some individuals, right, who are doing way more than they need to. But again, you need to pick the appropriate items that are relevant to your question. Any questions on that from anyone? Let me make sure I'm looking at your faces again. Somebody could be raising their hand. All right, no one's raising their hand. Okay, so let me go back. Now, this is, again, I'm picking on group SGTM, right? So let's look at how I give people data. Now, looking at what's going on, I looked at the interests of DS, which is Destiny Summers, and Siani Goodman. This is where they should go. SGTM, this is the correlational data. DS for Destiny, CG. You guys want to look in here. It's a lot of items. Now, MCDA, I believe that stands for, that actually should probably be McNeil. Tapper. And yeah, I spelled that wrong. I'm sorry, Dwyer. Actually, maybe DA is Dwyer and the M. Okay, I have no idea, but that will be the file for you, right? Let's go into the one that we have for Destiny and Siani. Now, looking at this, right? Now, again, you're going to have to understand what these items are, and that's going to have you go back to the survey or your knowledge from it. But one is talking about cognition. I believe that's the issue in question of asking about whether being tired impacts your cognition. Social, I'm going to make an assumption on this. I think that's about whether rate social skills are effective in order for everyday functioning. Now you'll have to go back to verify this, but right. The next item.
It is.
It is. All right. I got to say, I'm making an assumption, but I want to move forward. I don't want people to get so deep in yours that we're lost, right? The next one is, let's say, empathy. And that's also asking whether you think empathy is needed, rating on a scale of 1 to 5, needed to be everyday functioning. Now, I view this as a set, right? That's coming up next, which is kind of warn parent, warn teacher, and warn your peer, right? Do you think who can pick up on like early warning signs of mental health issues? Now, the other is whether social media. I'm going to stop here. We have enough to talk about at the top of here to use some relevant examples. I don't want overkill of information to lose us. All right, so let's just focus on these. This right here is a correlation table. Now, essentially what it did is it took all of the 50 people that correlated, that answered these responses, or 47 or 49, and it took those scores and it correlated them with different items. Now, if you guys remember, a perfect correlation is when there's a perfect increase on one item. I'd say this right here will be X, and there's a perfect one-to-one correlation on in the other item. The only time you'll ever get that is when you correlate, let's say on a scale of 1 to 5, Destiny, right? On a scale of 1 to 5, how tired are you now?
A 3.
She's a 3, right? So she's a 3. We're going to put that right dab in the middle. She says she's 3, right? That's right here. I'm going to draw this dot. So her data point will be somewhere right here. The only way you're going to get a perfect line or a one-to-one relationship is if I ask Destiny again. All right, Destiny, how tired are you on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 to 5, I'm sorry.
A 3.
She's going to say a 3 again, right? And she's back, she's like, why is this happening, right? But when I make this on the data point, that's exactly where it will line up. Now I'm going to ask the next individual. Let me look at these videos, see if I can see somebody's picture that looks like they really, really tired. All right. Deja, how tired are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Probably a 1.
You're a 1? Okay. We're going to do the same exact thing. This is the only way that you are going to get a value of 1, and it's actually depicted on here, right? So we're going to start you right here, and then I'm not going to make you do it again because you're really tired, right? But actually, no, depends on how we do the scale. 1 could be not so tired. I didn't clarify that. But
yeah, I'm not really tired. So
exactly.
1, yeah.
Not tired. And again, that's a perfect example of how you have to go back to the scale to make sure that you're interpreting these values right. Because I was ready to sit back and be like, oh, 1 means I'm real sleepy or real tired, when you have to go back to the survey. But right here, just like we did for Destiny, we're going to sit back and plot Deja against herself. When we plot her against herself, the 1 and 1 is going to be here. This is the only time we're ever really going to get a correlation that is a perfectly straight line. Now, I could do it for everybody in the class, but I'm not going to, right? And this R, if we do it, this R will equal 1, a perfect value of 1. All right? I hope you guys follow that. I'll give you a little time to digest. If you guys have any questions, put it in chat, unmute your mic about what I'm showing you. Does anybody not understand how that is each value plotted with itself is the only time you'll get a perfect score that's a correlation value of being 1. All right, okay. Now, let's go back to the data and look at this chart. The only time you see the value of R equal 1, all these are R values. The only time you see values of R equal 1 are when we correlate right down the diagonal. Now, what's happening during this diagonal? Let's look at it. Somebody who's willing to participate, because you might be wrong, it might be scary, right? what two variables do you think are being compared for, I want to do this one that I'm highlighting blue. The one that I highlighted right there. What two variables do you think are being compared with each other for that R value that's highlighted in blue?
One teacher and, one peer and one peer.
Excellent. Warm peer and warm peer, which is exactly what we just did right now. Right now, I could do everybody in the classroom with asking them how tired you are, but it doesn't matter. When we ask everybody in the class, it's going to be a perfect line, right? That's why we have a value of 1 for the correlation, because we are essentially correlating worn peer with worn peer, which will always be the same thing, right? So when you look down this middle right here, all these values are going to be 1. Now, the thing that really helps us learn about stuff, right, is when we're correlating variables with each other, right? Now, let's pick a value. I'm going to clear this out so it's not getting too crazy on here. Let's sit back and look at what worn your parent is with warning your teacher. So this right here is referring to 2 different items. They really are different. We're talking about whether your parent can pick up on a warning sign. We asked them to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. And then we asked them whether they think a teacher could pick up on a warning sign of mental health. Those 2 items, I highlighted it green so you guys can see what's significant. Don't talk about anything that's not significant, right? But if it's green or yellow, right, those are things that you can talk about. It's worth talking about, right? That's highly correlated. The R here is R equals 0.439. That's a positive correlation. That means as one variable increases, the other variable increases. The fact that I highlighted it, it's green. That's something that it's worth talking about. Now, an individual who picks this, if this is relevant to your question, might sit back and do the 3-step process. We talked about the results by saying, when we correlated the item about warning, parents seeing early warning signs and teachers seeing early warning signs, it was significant, right? Then you'll share the stats like R equal this, and then you'll say, as one variable increased, it was also, as parents' ratings increased, we found that the teachers' abilities ratings increased as well. That's it. And that's just for one of these. Now, I'm going to put into this rubric the number of items I want people to talk about, right? Everybody's going to have a diverse set. I think the minimum might be talking about 3 correlations, right? Now, I did kind of allude to this. I was just saying before, only talk about significant findings. However, I will tell you, some people don't have significant findings or they don't have an abundance of them. So in the event that you are looking for the minimum number of the results that you need to talk about, and you don't have that number of minimum significant results, you can talk about some that are not significant. An example of that might be this right here, right? And there's reason for going into that conversation, right? You might sit back and say, all right, asking about my crime might be like the worst crime you committed, right? If you feel like there's value in that by saying, look, people who rated themselves as not committing violent crimes were not likely, it was not significantly correlated with teachers being able to see their warning signs. That's because if you usually commit a crime, a teacher might see you, XYZ, or some crimes aren't completed in school. And then that's the reason why you believe that teachers aren't able to predict whether like you're a criminal because they don't see those warning signs about crime. You got to use that introductory critical thinking to kind of make some sense out of these results. Now, I think some people will have things that are significant, others will have things that are not significant. The only way to really get into this is to make sure that you appreciate the items, right? Reach out to me, have any questions about what's going on, but your task really is to appreciate the survey, appreciate the items that are there, and to write appropriate results about your findings. Now, there's no right or wrong, and actually there is wrong if you're sitting back here and saying that the correlation between crime and social, you start reporting this value right here. That's how you could be wrong. You should have cited this value, but yet you're citing this number in the chart. When you talk about my crime, right, you are misinterpreting the item saying my crime was when I committed my first crime. And when I go back and look at the survey, I see that the survey item is not asking about what age you were when you completed your first crime. That's how you can make mistakes. But the interpretations of the data, I can't dispute your opinion if it's supported by data. I can't dispute your opinion if it's really reporting what's here. I may not agree with your decision. You might sit back and say, this is because people are scared of COVID. I'm just like, what? I don't agree with that. But since the results are correct, since you're appropriating the significance correct, and since you are also tying the appropriate to information to correct, I can't really debate your belief. You know what I mean? I think I'll work with you to make sure that the final poster isn't so kind of off like that. But that is, I say that to let you know that I don't want you guys to be scared and crippled to introduce your opinions, right? I will give you feedback on your opinions if you're going in the wrong direction for certain approaches, but don't be crippled to the point that I don't hand in assignment 8 because I didn't know if I was thinking about it correctly. No. Take your stab, double check to make sure that you're focusing on the right date, the right data, double check to make sure that you are interpreting the items correctly in terms of whether 1's equal 5 and 1 is low or 5 equals high. Make sure that you understand the items correctly, and then you're free to make a mistake within reason. But again, I don't want people to be absolutely crippled from that aspect. Now, like I said, this is a very diverse assignment. What I tried to relay to you guys today right now, you're going to have to understand the skill that is promoted from this, because I probably didn't do anything, maybe one person in the class with my example. You're going to have to be able to go back to the descriptive data, which we talked about before, know how to interpret the F1, F2, F3, F4, and F5, understand how to talk about the mean, and then also be able to interpret the correlational data right here by understanding that positive values mean as one goes up, the other, the green ones are significant. Yellow might be kind of like, you're stretching a little bit, but it's good. Trust me, some people can do research and don't get anything out of it. So I think green is what I have as being definite significant relationships. Yellow, I'm trying to sit back if I could find one real quick, I won't. But when you guys come to, if you have any questions, when they're highlighted green, that's in my mind, that's a definite significant correlation. If it's highlighted yellow, that's one that you could be like, it might be a trend. Something could be there, right? And maybe if I did more data or collected more participants, I would have had more. But again, it really is going to take deep diving into this. I'm going to promise you and tell you guys right now, waiting to the last minute on this assignment is going to hurt you, because waiting to the last minute on this assignment when you need some input, I'm probably not going to be up when you're up to help you. You know, and like some of us like the 11:30, 12:20 type of approaches on doing data. You won't get access to me at that point. But if you're doing it throughout the week, throughout the day, you can sit back and have time so we can do it before the deadline. You can get all the assistance that you need. That is enough of what I'm going to say now in terms of assignment 8. That is there. I don't think you guys are probably ready for working on it yet, but it will be on D2L very soon. Let's come on Friday. We'll have a little bit of workshops where we'll have you guys working with this data and applying it. And then we'll be hands-on till the end until we get the product that we need. Guys, we are 1 minute past the class ending. I apologize for that. I'm going to let you guys leave. I have indications of the new attendance policy, so I'll use and apply that. And I'll see you. See you guys Friday.
Dr. Barnes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So what is the required length for the results part?
You know what? I always do this. There is no required length, right?
Okay.
Here's the issue. You must vilify me. And I say that this way. Every item on the rubric that you go for assignment number 8, it's out of 5 points. So getting yourself that Dr. Barnes wants to give you a 0, right? So not only are you going to do each rubric dimension, but you're going to do it well enough that Dr. Barnes has to give me a 5, right? And I think when people write their results that way, as opposed to just trying to get it done, you have a perfect paper. And again, everybody, depending on their style, will have a different length. But I tell you this, if you give me, I haven't seen it done this way, but if you give me a half a page and you have effectively fulfilled every dimension on that rubric, kudos to you. I think that'd be challenging, right? And I think you'll probably expand on it if you're fearful that I'm trying to fail you. And as a result, you just want to expand on it just a little bit more. So that would be the issue. Do this assignment thinking that I'm trying to fail you, and don't give me that chance. And when you don't give me that chance, you'll have a great assignment. And let
Okay.
it be an issue.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Destiny.
Bye.
Hmm.